There is something I want you to do starting today. Before the world tells you who you are, before expectations, pressure, noise, and doubt creep in, I want you to pause, look at yourself, and speak to yourself, not casually, not carelessly, but intentionally. Because the words you repeat to yourself every single day quietly shape your identity, your confidence, your boundaries, your energy, your entire life. And today I'm going to share with you 9 things you must tell yourself every day. Not just as motivation, but as truth. Especially if you are a woman navigating a world that often misunderstands your depth, your emotions, and your power. 1, my sensitivity is not weakness. It is my superpower. Let's start here, because this is where the world gets it wrong. You've been told you're too emotional, you take things too personally, you care too much. But let me tell you something powerful. Your emotional depth is not something to fix. It is something to honor. You feel deeply. You notice what others ignore. You carry intuition that logic alone cannot explain. That is not weakness. That is awareness. That is awareness. That is intelligence on a different level. A woman's emotional depth allows her to understand unspoken pain, create meaningful connections, sense energy before words are spoken, and yet society often tries to harden you. But you were not created to be hardened, you were created to be aware, intuitive, and alive. So every day, remind yourself, I do not need to become less emotional to be respected. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need less feeling. It needs people brave enough to feel fully. 2, I am allowed to take up space. How many times have you shrunk yourself, lowered your voice, softened your opinion, smiled when you wanted to say no, just to make others comfortable? But let me ask you something. Who taught you that your presence needs permission? You are not here to be invisible. You are not here to be just enough. You are here to exist fully, to speak, to express, to be seen without apology. Your energy, your thoughts, your voice, they matter. And the moment you stop minimizing yourself is the moment your power begins to expand. So say it every day. I refuse to shrink to fit into spaces that were never designed for my growth. 3, my femininity is strength, not limitation. There is a silent pressure placed on women that to be powerful, you must become more like something you are not, more aggressive, more detached, more tough. But real strength does not require you to abandon your femininity, because femininity is not fragile, it is fluid, it is adaptive, it is deeply powerful. Think about it, water is soft, yet it shapes mountains. That is feminine energy. Your grace is strength. Your patience is strength. Your ability to nurture, create, and transform, that is strength. And don't let anyone convince you otherwise. You don't need to become harder. You need to become more aligned with who you truly are. So tell yourself, I embrace my softness because within it lies my greatest power. 4, I trust my intuition. There have been moments in your life when something didn't feel right, but you ignored it because logic said something else, because people said something else, and later you realized you were right. That quiet voice inside you, the feeling you can't explain, that is not random. That is your inner guidance. Women are naturally wired to sense things beyond the surface. Energy, intentions, truth. But the world often teaches you to doubt it, to second guess yourself. Not anymore. From today, you listen, even when it's inconvenient, even when it doesn't make sense, because your intuition is not there to confuse you. It is there to protect you and guide you. Say it with certainty, I trust what I feel, even when I cannot explain it. 5, I am not responsible for everyone's happiness. 5, I am not responsible for everyone's happiness. This one is heavy because many women carry this invisible burden to fix everything, to help everyone, to make sure no one is upset. But in doing that, you slowly abandon yourself. You overgive, you overextend, you exhaust your energy trying to be everything for everyone. And here's the truth. You are not meant to carry the emotional weight of the world. Caring is beautiful, but losing yourself in the process is not. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to prioritize your peace, because the strongest women are not the ones who sacrifice themselves completely. They are the ones who know when to protect their energy. So remind yourself daily, I can love others without losing myself. 6, my worth is not defined by validation. Let's be honest. We live in a world that constantly measures worth. Likes, approval, attention, comparison, and slowly, without realizing it, you start tying your value to how others respond to you. But listen carefully, Your worth was never meant to be voted on. It is not dependent on how someone treats you, how many people notice you, how often you are chosen. Your value is intrinsic. It exists whether the world sees it or not. And the moment you stop seeking external validation, you step into a different level of freedom. Because now you don't perform for acceptance. You exist with confidence. Say it every day. I do not chase validation. I embody my worth. 7, I am allowed to evolve. 7, I am allowed to evolve. You are not the same person you were a year ago, and that's not something to fear, that's something to celebrate. Growth is not always comfortable. Sometimes it looks like outgrowing people, changing perspectives, walking away from what once felt familiar, and that can feel lonely. But let me tell you something powerful. Evolution requires courage. You are not meant to stay the same just to keep others comfortable. You are meant to expand, to become, to transform. And yes, some people won't understand it. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. So every day, remind yourself, I give myself permission to change, to grow, and to become more of who I'm meant to be. 8, my silence is powerful. Not every battle needs your voice. 8, not every misunderstanding needs your explanation. Not every situation deserves your reaction. There is a different kind of strength in knowing when to stay silent, because silence is not always weakness. Sometimes it is control, it is awareness, it is power. A woman who understands her worth does not feel the need to prove herself in every room. She observes, she chooses, she responds with intention, and sometimes she walks away without saying a word. That is not defeat, that is mastery. So tell yourself, I do not need to be loud to be powerful. 9, I am enough exactly as I am. And finally, the most important one, because everything comes back to this, there will always be pressure to be more perfect, more successful, more attractive, more everything. But if you keep chasing more without accepting who you are now, you will always feel incomplete. So pause for a moment and really hear this. You are already enough. Not when you achieve something, not when someone chooses you, not when you fix everything. Right now, in your current state, with your flaws, your strengths, your emotions, your journey, you are enough. And when you truly believe that, everything changes, because now you don't chase love, you attract it. You don't beg for respect, you command it. You don't question your value, you live it. So every single day, remind yourself, I am enough and I have always been enough. Final message, let me leave you with this. Being a woman in this world is not always easy. You are often misunderstood, misjudged, underestimated, your emotions are questioned, your strength is overlooked, your silence is misinterpreted. But never forget this truth. There is a quiet power within you that the world cannot define. It lives in your intuition, in your resilience, in your ability to feel, to love, to rise again and again. You don't need to prove your strength. You need to recognize it. You don't need to become someone else. You need to come home to yourself. So starting today, speak to yourself with intention, because the relationship you have with yourself will define every other relationship in your life. Stand in your truth. Honor your energy. Stand in your truth. Honor your energy. Protect your peace. And walk through this world not as someone who is trying to be enough, but as someone who already knows she is. You are powerful, you are deep, you are evolving, and you are unstoppable.